Thanks for checking out the Ideal Impact Podcast, where we discuss 5 key skills and the impact they can have on your life, as well as some major issues in society. You ready to get after it? Welcome to the episode number 2, where we will be discussing how the ideal skills can have a profound impact on your life. So we're going to learn to leverage intentionality, discipline, emotional intelligence, accountability, and loyalty. So on today's episode, we have co-founder of IDEAL, Kyle Wakeman, which is me. So I'm excited for Randy and Brian here to go ahead and dive in and get started on episode number 2. So I'll turn it over to you, gentlemen.
Hello.
What's going on, bud?
Down here in Texas, I hear you guys are getting snow today, and I'm looking out the window and it's 75 degrees and sunny. When we're done, I'm probably going to take a post-dinner walk out by the lake. I don't know about you guys.
It's 38 degrees and snowing.
And it was 78 and sunny yesterday.
Yeah, so when we're done with this, I'm probably going to go outside and maybe build a snowman.
So what you're saying is I shouldn't come back to Ohio.
I would not come back to Ohio.
Roger. Got it.
All right, Kyle, we're going to kick things off. We're going to get this started. So why don't you share a little bit about who Kyle Wakeman is? Where are you from? What was your childhood like?
So I was born in Newport, Rhode Island. So pretty cool to say. It's a tiny little state, and Newport is absolutely gorgeous. So I still have this deep sense of connection there. I lived in Rhode Island for 3 years to start my life, and then I moved to Delaware for a year, and then back to Rhode Island. I lived in Connecticut for 4 years, and then upstate New York for 1 year, and then finally settled in Ohio. So my dad was in the Navy, bounced around a lot as a kid, which was really cool looking back on it. I got to live in some really cool places. Like Newport is absolutely gorgeous. I highly recommend for everybody to go visit at least once. But it gave me a lot of life skills. Like I said, you get to connect with a ton of different people. You get to make friends quickly. I was an only child, so no siblings. So I was kind of forced to build quick rapport with people. So again, looking back on that now, it's definitely interesting, even though at the time it was really hard.
So how many schools did you go to? How many different schools did you attend in your young academic career at that point?
I've counted this out at one point, and I don't remember. So I went to preschool in Delaware, I think. No, I went to kindergarten. I went to preschool in Delaware. I went to kindergarten in Rhode Island, and then I went through 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, all at the same school in Connecticut, 5th grade in New York, 6th grade at the elementary school in Ohio, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade at the middle school, Ridge, and then finished out 10th, 11th, and 12th at Mentor High School. So
all right.
It was more than a couple. Yeah, it was a lot of moving around. But again, I think that made those transitions to like new schools and everything. It made it easy. Like I had done it so many times before. A lot of people have anxiety going from elementary school to middle school or middle school to high school. For me, I had done it so many times, it really didn't matter. And again, being an only child, it was awesome to be able to quickly build friends and create those relationships when I did move to a new place. So super impactful on me. When we got to Ohio, so the reason that we came back to Ohio, so again, my dad was in the Navy. My mom was originally born and raised in Cleveland. She met my dad when he was in the Navy. They were on a Great Lakes cruise. So the Navy used to send a couple ships and they would cruise the Great Lakes as like a PR thing, I believe. So my dad and mom met at a bar when he was here in Cleveland, and they've been together since it was 1985. So yeah, a little bit before I was born, they've been together. So it's pretty awesome. So yeah, I graduated Mentor High School in 2005, went to Lakeland. So I keep confusing that. It's been so long, but Lakeland Community College is a local community college there in Cleveland, and then transferred to Lake Erie. So I got my bachelor's degree in business administration from Lake Erie, which was an amazing experience. Like college was a ton of fun, but looking back on it, I spent $85,000 on a degree, which basically did nothing for me other than give me like some of my best friends. And so I obviously can't regret that, but it also put me on this track that I'm on now. I ended up causing me to figure out how am I going to pay for $85,000 in student loans. So I joined the National Guard because they were offering student loan repayment. And then I got home from training. I ended up getting a job at Lowe's, making $11 an hour to do home delivery, which was actually one of my favorite jobs that I've ever had. The pay sucked, especially with $85,000 in student loan debt. I remember getting my first bill. It was $1,000 a month was my student loan payment. And I got that, and I'm making $11 an hour at the time. And I open it, and I wanted to cry. I call them immediately. I'm like, hey, I don't know how you expect me to pay $1,000 a month. I'm like, I'm broke. So I had to navigate that entire situation. And then I was lucky enough to get into a really good employer where I spent 11 years total. And we'll get into some details with all of that. But at the time, it was amazing. Even though I wasn't making much money, I got a little bit of a raise from that $11 an hour. I was lucky enough to at least have a steady income and benefits and all of that stuff. So that was a huge impact on me. And that, experience in my corporate career is what led us here to IDEAL and everything that we're doing with that.
Awesome. I did the home delivery job too, and that was like my favorite job as well. That's like I got paid to work out. That's how I looked at it. I'm like, I get to carry all this stuff. I'm getting a workout in, and I'm getting paid for it.
That's something I didn't know about both of you. I didn't know both of you worked there.
I didn't work at Lowe's and do it. I worked at Menor Lumber and did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was doing refrigerators, stoves, washing machines, up and down stairs and everything. Yeah, it was a great workout, but that actually, and ended up getting me in trouble. Well, not in trouble, but in the Guard, I ended up missing out on a deployment because something I said on our what was the health exam? The PHA. Yeah, the PHA. So we were very first into that unit. I mentioned something about my back hurting from that, and it ended up I got on profile, and we had no idea that the deployment was coming up. Like, it was our first PHA. We had just gotten to the unit. I mentioned that my back hurts, and all of a sudden I'm on profile. I'm flagged, and I can't deploy. It was, we learned our lesson on that first PHA to be very, very intentional with the words that we were using and everything that we were saying. And that was something that you learned quick in the military.
Well, they were stupid questions. They'd be like, do you have any aches or pains? And you're like, oh, yeah, my back's a little sore. And then next thing you know, you're on profile, and a dead man profile, and you're not allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
That's a leading question.
Yeah. And I was, 25 at that time, I think 24, 25. I'm like,
yeah,
24.
My back's a little sore.
Yeah, we just got done doing basic training. We just got done doing advanced training. I played football in college. I moved refrigerators up and downstairs. Sure, I have pain. Yeah, well, apparently you're not allowed to say that. My profile was crazy too. They flagged me, and I was allowed to do everything. I could PT, I could work, I could do everything. The only thing that I was flagged for was from deploying. And then by the time I got all that situated and cleared out, like, they had filled the deployment, and it was what it was at that point. So,
well, what, like, you mentioned the Guard and you mentioned the student loans. Is that the only reason why you joined, or did you have other reasons why you wanted to join?
Yeah, so that wasn't the only reason. It was the reason that I joined the National Guard specifically. So my dad was in the Navy for 22 years, and when I was a kid, that was it. I wanted to join the military, and my dad specifically, I remember telling me, don't do what I did. Don't enlist. Like, if you ever join the military, go the officer route. It's such a better path. It's a gentleman's course and all this stuff. So, yeah. So I listened to him, right? I went to college first. I got my degree, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I can get my degree, and I wanted the full college experience. Like, the partying, all of that stuff. I was intentional about my college experience. It just wasn't the right intent. I didn't care what I studied. I didn't care what my grades were. I wanted to play football and party, and I had a great time doing that stuff. But so I graduated from college. I did okay. I did better in college than I did in high school because I was paying so much money for it. So that was good motivation there. But I wanted to join the Navy, and I wanted to become an officer. So I got done with school. I contacted a recruiter who hooked me up with somebody who was specifically recruiting officer candidates. So we had a little phone screening, And at the time, again, I'm playing college football. I'm 6'4". I was 250, I think, at that time. I played tight end. And he told me during this phone screen, he's like, well, you're too big. So there was two things. He told me that I was too big. And I was like, well, I'm not naturally 250. I eat like 10,000 calories a day in order to be this big. And the other thing was, and he said that was it. Like, he basically ended the conversation, but he had also brought up in the past, like, he asked me if I smoked weed. And I'm like, oh man, like, are they going to give me a lie detector test? Like, are they doing a hair follicle thing? Which back then I had hair follicles. And I told him the truth. I didn't panic. I'm like, well, I'm just going to be honest and say, yeah, I mean, and I didn't do it much. Like, I played college football. We got drug tested. So I was honest. I'm like, yeah, I've smoked weed. And at that point, like, I don't know, maybe 6 times in my whole life. And he was like, no, between the drug use and your size, you can't be an officer in the Navy. So I'm like, okay. So I went to the Army, I went to the Marines, and I took the ASVAB test. I tested really well. And then before I ended up signing any contracts, I heard that the National Guard was doing the student loan repayment, and they accepted me into the officer candidate program. So I went with the Guard, and I was like, well, this is cool. Like, I still get to serve my country and do the reserves, and then, start focusing on building a career. Because again, a big concern at that time, even going into the military, was how am I going to pay this $1,000 a month student loan payment? So it was a really good way to do that, and ended up, so they told us, and Randy experienced this as well. So they told us, well, we'll give you 50 grand towards your student loan. So I'm like, damn, like 50 grand out of 85,000. That's a pretty good chunk, right?
It is.
Yeah. Well, what they didn't tell you was, one, you can't be an officer because once you commission, you're no longer eligible for student loan repayment. Two, that the 50,000 was only towards federal student loans, which I did not have 50,000 of. And 3 and 4. So 3 was they made like an annual payment, and you had to fill out all of this paperwork every single year and prove all this stuff. And then on top of that, it was taxed. So you only got like a percentage of it each year, and it was taxed like crazy. So
it was taxed 2 times.
Yeah,
they taxed it before they gave it to you, and then you had to claim it as income, and then it got taxed again.
Right.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, so I ended up, I think out of like the 50,000 that I thought I was going to get, I got like $3,500. So the purpose of joining from the financial aspect was definitely not the move. But again, a lot like college. If it wasn't for doing that, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. Randy and I wouldn't be such amazingly close friends. We wouldn't be in business together. So, to ask if I regretted it, absolutely not. Not that you did ask that, but I'm sure people are wondering, like, well, did you regret it? No, I didn't regret it. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have moved up the ladder at the corporate job as quickly as I did. I wouldn't have made the mistakes that I had and learned the lessons that I did. So, I'm happy that I did it, but from a financial perspective, no.
Well, Kyle, you talked quite a bit about your Army career, your high school career. What do you do in your free time? What do you like to do? Do you read?
Yeah, so definitely in my free time. So I have a lot of hobbies, probably too many to actually be very good at any of them. I read every single day. So that's part of my daily habits. And I started tracking my reading at the end of 2022. I can't remember the exact time, but I made a commitment when I was working. I was working for a roofing company at the time with some really good friends of mine. And I had started this weekly accountability exercise with them. And one of the things that I committed to at the time was reading 10 pages a day. So I have read 10 pages a day every single day, at least 10 pages a day for, I don't know, it's got to be at least 6 months now. And
So
I've gradually, yeah, what's that?
So year to date, how many have you actually read? How many books have you actually read?
This year, so I just started my 9th book on Thursday evening after I wrapped up my 8th book, and I am already 90 something pages into book number 9 for the year. And if you rewind and look at, I don't know, 5 years ago, well, maybe a little bit longer than that. 6 years ago, you wouldn't have caught me reading a thing. Never. Yeah, no. So that's a big one. Yeah.
So throughout these 9 books and here and there in your past, what's the most impactful book you've ever read?
The most impactful book that I've read, and it was just a recent one. So there's been a lot. I mean, my goal for every book that I read is to try to take one super impactful thing away from it, at least, right? But recently I read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and
carry them boats. Got to carry
Yeah.
the boats. Who's going to carry the boats?
You don't know me, son. So we talked about a little bit of Can't Hurt Me and David Goggins and Randy's episode, but reading that book, really what it did for me was it changed my mindset on what I am physically and mentally capable of. I have pushed my discipline to an entirely new level. So I just wrapped that book up. That was book number 7 for the year. So maybe 3 weeks ago or so, I wrapped that book up. And since then, I've been hitting my workouts twice as hard as I ever have. I've lost a considerable amount of body fat since then. My diet's been on point every day, all day, except for one day a week. I do cut back and I let myself lax a little bit. And even then I'm still mindful. Like I'm not just mindlessly eating. I'm enjoying the meal that I put in front of me at that point and the dessert that I have. So this week it was chocolate chip cookie dough, ice cream.
Ooh,
I had a pint of that. And I think,
yeah.
oh yeah.
Is this like a cheat day or is this a cheat meal?
So I do a cheat meal and then a dessert. So this meal was, Callie took pictures of it. So we went to this barbecue place here in Texas and it was called Humphreys. And I got a crispy buffalo chicken sandwich, and no joke, I took one piece of chicken off of it and I still couldn't hold it to put in, like I couldn't put my mouth on this thing. There was so much chicken and bread and cheese. It was incredible. So that was great. So I did that for my cheat meal, and then I had the pint of ice cream, and I think like 6 cookies for dessert.
Man, it's a lot of food.
Yeah,
he was mindful though.
I could have done worse. I could have definitely done more. I could have made it. There were times I used to do a whole cheat day, so I would eat like crap from the time I woke up until the time I went to bed, and I've cut it back. I've improved my relationship with food to stop the binge eating as bad as it used to be.
Well, yeah, once you start eating healthy like that every day, and then all of a sudden you have this cheat day, like you feel like crap the next day. So it's weird.
Well, even today we were working out. So Callie and I did our workout outside today, and I'm training for this fitness test that I have coming up on Friday. So it's just a lot of body weight exercises, and we did 10 sets of 10 reps on 5 different exercises, and I was wearing a 10-pound weighted vest for that today, and then on the squats I was holding a 40-pound dumbbell, which doesn't seem like a lot of weight, but after you do all those reps it adds up, and I felt like garbage. And normally on those workouts lately I've been killing it. I'm struggling from a endurance standpoint, but I felt but I felt fine today. I got done with that. I came inside and laid on the floor in the air conditioning, and I was just in a puddle of sweat. I was like clammy, and it was all because of what you just said, Randy. It was the garbage food that I ate yesterday, and I got to get back. What we were doing, we were working out on Sundays and then taking Monday and just doing a walk, which we need to get back to because, when you put all that crap in your body, you feel it. And it's important to remember that food is fuel.
That is true.
So
that before.
I want to go back to that book real quick. You said that you'd read it, and at one point it made you think about all these things that you can now potentially do, questioning your ability. After you read it, did you relate it to anything in your past, like basic or any other achievement in life?
Yeah, not an achievement. It's a regret, and that's a really good question. So I mentioned that I played college football. So I played Division II NCAA football at Lake Erie College. I was on the very first team at Lake Erie. So they were a Division II program, but did not have a Division II athletic program, but did not have a football team until 2007. So
they had equestrian though. They used to rock at equestrian.
I think they still rock equestrian.
They still do.
Yeah, they were an equine school, and at one point before they became co-ed, I think they were the Unicorns? I think they were the Lake Erie Unicorns or some very.
They should have kept that name because that name's
very not intimidating name. But so
I'm kind of upset that we don't know that living here in
Right.
Painesville.
I've never heard of the
if
unicorns.
you go to the athletic center and you walk through, there's some stuff still in the trophy case. So
I can't say much because I was a student prince. That's what we were at my school. So
we
that's
were
kinda lame.
the Storm. So like the Storm was all right. And we did the
Feel the
storm.
rage.
Yeah, we did the storm warning before we came out of the field. There's been a storm warning issued for Jack Britt Memorial Stadium. me.
And then you guys would lose by like 60 points. And
Hey, no, we were actually we were pretty decent while I was there. So, but yeah. So anyway, and going back before that, so that was I transferred to Lake Erie in 2007. I was on their very first football program. I was technically they listed me in the program as like the first recruit, but no one recruited me. I just showed up one day. I was the first person. Yeah, I think I was the first person to intentionally go to Lake Erie to play football.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I guess that's cool. But and then going back so in high school, I played football as well. I was a wide receiver. Again, I was tall and skinny, and I quit before my junior year. Well, I was in my junior year. And I have a ton of regret from quitting football. It was if I had to point at one thing that really changed my life, and there's been many other things, but this is something that I come back to often, but was quitting football because I was talented, but I didn't work hard, and I didn't take it seriously. I quit football because of my girlfriend at the time. And it wasn't her fault by any means. She didn't pressure me or anything like that, but I thought I was in love. I thought I was going to marry her. I thought, and anybody who knew that relationship knew that was the dumbest thing ever. But I quit. I regretted it. I never played varsity much because at Mentor, it was a Division I powerhouse in Ohio.
Yeah,
like
Mentor is always loaded.
Yeah, they're one of the best programs in the state always because they have so much talent to pull from being such a big school. But I was good. I had a really good freshman year. I went into my sophomore year. The class ahead of us was completely stacked. 2004, they were referred to as the class. There was like articles in the newspaper about them. And so I didn't get much playing time when I was a sophomore, blowout games like I played. And then going into my junior year, I was stoked. Like I'm like, this is going to be it. Even though those guys in front of me are really good, like I'm going to get playing time. And I got a little defeated because somebody that I personally didn't feel was better than me ended up starting and playing over me. So that was a big kick in camp. And then the other thing, so my junior year, I got asked to suit up for JV, which was fine. That wasn't a problem. But I wanted to play wide receiver and JV because it was going to be a blast. I'm like, I'm going to play against these guys that aren't nearly as good as me. They're JV, and I'm going to smoke them, right? Well, I wasn't allowed to play receiver. I had to punt. That's why they wanted me to suit up for JV, was just so I could go out there and punt, right? And again, I had all of this in the back of my mind where, I was real caught up in my girlfriend at the time, and went out there on our first game Saturday. We're playing Glenville. Again, at that time, Glenville was another powerhouse program. Like a lot of guys that played in the NFL came out of Glenville. Ted Ginn Jr., Troy Smith, Dante Whitner, I think was a Glenville product. And so I had to punt. Our gunner is wide open, and I'm getting yelled at from the sideline to snap the ball and throw it to the gunner. Now, I never practiced this, and I had definitely never thrown a football in a game before. So I get the snap. Glenville, these guys are all over me. By the time I can even try to throw the ball, I'm getting tackled. I'm falling over sideways. I just toss the ball up in the air. It falls incomplete, whatever. Again, this is a JV game. Well, I get reamed on the sideline, and I was not emotionally intelligent at that point. I didn't understand all of the things that we talk about now, and that just was like the icing on the cake. I quit, never went back. Well, I never went back my junior year. I walked away. I tried to go back my senior year, and my mind wasn't in it anymore because I had been away from it so long. And then I had all of these regrets. I literally couldn't even drive past Mentor Stadium for a long time because I would cry because of all the regret. So Lake Erie started a football program. So this is a perfect opportunity. I can go there, I can walk on, and everything's going to be great. Well, I weighed 180 pounds. I was fast enough in high school, but not fast enough to play wide receiver in Division II NCAA football. So they moved me to tight end. I had great hands. I'm like, cool, I can make this work. Well, one, I hated tight end. Blocking defensive ends and linebackers, it sucks. I didn't want anything to do with that. That's why I played wide receiver. I just wanted to catch the ball, you know. So, and then I put on 75 pounds. So I went from 180 to 255, and my body just fell apart. Like I had stress fractures in my shins. My knees were bad. My frame just isn't built to carry 255 pounds, especially in
How
that
fast
kind
did
of
you
an
put that
environment.
on?
That was in a year.
75 pounds in a year?
Yeah.
Wow.
I did not know anything about nutrition. I ate full boxes of Swiss cake rolls. I ate full pizzas. I
So
would
this
wake.
wasn't like muscle and good weight that you put on. You were eating Twinkies and
Yeah,
ho-hos.
it was half. It was, I would say half muscle. Like,
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
I
you
was
didn't gain 75 pounds of fat. I realize that.
right. But yeah, no, it wasn't a good 75 pounds. It was, but the worst part was at the time I thought I was yoked. Like, I'm like, dude, you're 255 pounds. Like you got pipes and all this. And I look back now at pictures that I've seen. Like my buddy's got a video of me dancing to like techno music outside of the locker room one day. And I'm like, dude, you were fat. Like you were fat. And I've seen pictures of my face, and I've shared pictures like college and then compared to when I did 75 hard last year. And I'm like, I don't even look like the same person. I was so fat. So yeah, I mean, that's a regret that I have. So that mindset, I just never took it seriously. Like I never took football seriously, even though I loved it. I just relied on my talent. I didn't rely on discipline. I didn't rely on hard work. I didn't know how to push myself to my physical and mental limits. So I look back at that and I'm like, you know what? I started getting this mindset before I read Can't Hurt Me. Again, this was very recently, but really that solidified that if this man can get off his couch at 295 pounds and shed like it was something crazy, like 100 pounds in like 8 weeks.
It was over 100 pounds.
Yeah. And in order to join the Navy and then become a Navy SEAL, and then all of the things that he did on top of that, like making it through buds on broken legs. Like, I mean, the guy's just a testament to what the mind can achieve when the body quits. And that really like had me think back to that. And I'm like, man, like imagine you were good. Now imagine if you didn't quit and if you took things seriously and you were disciplined and you worked hard and and you didn't just rely on talent. Like imagine what may have happened. And again, now I've shifted my mindset a little bit where I'm happy with my life. I'm fulfilled right now. I have an amazing wife. I have amazing friends. So, you know, and maybe I played football continuously and maybe my senior year I snapped my neck and I was paralyzed. So, I mean, who knows? So I'm not going to sit here and wallow in that anymore. But man, it just really forced me to dig deep. And like now I'm running more than I ever have over the last like month. I'm pushing these workouts to a new limit, and I'm coming for that fitness test on Friday. And you know, I'm going to this event, very wealthy, successful entrepreneurs, very high level real estate investors, people that are doing big things from like a podcast and personal coaching perspective. And I'm like, I'm not going to be the most, you know, wealthy person there. I'm not going to be the biggest name. I'm not going to be the best personal coach at this point, but I can go in there and smoke that fitness test and stand out in that manner and make connections and add value to other people by helping them do the same type of things and helping them with their mindset. So that's my intent behind why I'm looking at it from a physical perspective right now and how that book helped me.
So what is this fitness test that you're taking?
Yeah, so it was actually the 5 exercises that we did today. So the fitness test itself is called the GB9. And it is 5 different exercises, and you get 4 minute, or you get 4 1-minute breaks between each exercise. So in total, it's 9 minutes. And so that's why the GoBundance 9, GB9. So GoBundance is the mastermind group that the parent company of the mastermind that I'm in. So burpees, super planks, which is like a dynamic plank, which absolutely just smoke your triceps. And then you move to push-ups. So now you're doing push-ups. You've already done burpees. You've done these super planks. Your triceps are smoked. So now you're doing to do push-ups. then sit-ups and air squats.
So it's a minute of each of those?
A minute of each of those, and you get a 1 minute break in between each one.
How many
So
times
it's
you
just
go
as
through
many
that?
reps?
It's as many reps as you possibly can. So the way that it's scored is your total number of reps plus your age. So the last time I did it, the first time I did it, I did 187 reps. And that was maybe 2 months ago. And then I did it last weekend and I did 233 reps. So a huge improvement. And then plus my age. So in total, I scored a 269. I don't think it's the highest score that's been done, but it's the highest score that I've seen put out there on the networking group that I'm a part of.
Nice. So you just do a minute of each one, as many reps as you can, and you get a minute rest in between each exercise. And that's it.
Yeah.
Just one round.
Yeah, just one round. And
maximum effort.
Yeah, maximum effort, and talk about digging deep on the discipline. When you're, because I'm pushing myself and I'm trying to push hard. By the time you get to those squats, that last exercise, your legs are smoked, you're gassed, you're breathing hard, you're wanting to drink water, but like I don't want to put anything in my stomach at the same time. And it's just like, hey, like this is my bread and butter. I can do more squats than any of these other exercises. So like, let's get after it. And I think the last time I did it, so I did like 75 squats in 60 seconds or something. I was just moving. So yeah, and again, all of these things that we talk about, I could apply all 5, and I did in a way. My intent behind why I want to do so well in this test, the discipline that goes behind it, the emotions that go into it. That's the cool thing about these skills that we talk about. You can literally apply them to anything that you're facing in your life. And, that's why we're doing what we're doing, is to help people do the same thing.
That's a different type of workout too, man. That's not like lifting weights.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't weigh 255 pounds anymore.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when I went to the State Highway Patrol Academy, we didn't lift a single weight. It was just HIIT training day in and day out. And Kyle, I feel your pain, brother, because that is, like Randy's saying, a totally different workout, especially if you're not doing it consistently. And now you are. I'm sure it's still not easy.
No, it's not easy, but I will tell you, so I think over the winter I got up to like 220, and I just weighed myself yesterday. I was down to 207. So again, just being really and that's just small changes on being intentional in my diet and pushing myself harder and changing up the type of workouts. I mean, I still lift weights with these like HIIT type workouts, but I bought 40-pound dumbbells, 20-pound dumbbells. I have a 20-pound weighted vest and like a 6-pound medicine ball. And we've just been using that to just crush these workouts since we've got to Texas, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, you don't need a whole lot. I mean, you think back when we were doing we were getting ready for that Murph. I mean, all we were doing is running, squats, push-ups, and what was the other one? Push-ups and wasn't sit-ups, was it?
Oh man, how are we blanking on the Murph?
I don't know.
It's
run a mile,
push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups, or push-ups, pull-ups, and squats. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the mile run. You run a mile before.
Mile in the beginning and the end.
With a 20-pound vest on.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is,
to be fair, I didn't wear the vest when we did the Murph. I did chicken out and did not wear the vest, but I did complete the workout, which was my goal. And we do need to do it again, and I will wear the vest this time.
I'm gonna wait probably for my hip to heal up before I do that.
You might want to do that.
That was hard, man. The 100 pull-ups sucked. 100 pull-ups with the vest on was not fun.
Yeah.
So would you say that for all of our listeners and followers that these are absolutely things that they can start slowly incorporating into their daily exercise and kind of build off of?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say everyone, because obviously there are people out there with certain like legitimate physical issues where they might need to modify things, but I think for most people just don't want to make themselves that uncomfortable. Like, doing that stuff sucks. There's no way around it. I work out a lot, and I mean, there's points. I think on Friday I walked almost 3 miles in the morning up and down these hills out here in East Texas. I ran like 2.3 miles in the afternoon, and then in the evening I walked like almost 4 miles or something. So I'm pushing myself right now physically, but these workouts don't ever get easier. The intent of these workouts is to make yourself uncomfortable and to force yourself to grow. If I start taking my workouts easy, then I'm not getting any better, right? And a lot of people, that's scary. And the other thing too is you're gonna suck at it if you haven't done it in a long time, or you've never worked out. it's going to be horribly hard. You're going to be in extreme physical discomfort. Your body is going to hurt afterwards, but
But that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. You could either do that and you could force yourself and you could grow. And it's not just a physical thing, right? There is so many benefits to exercise from a mental standpoint. If you can push yourself that hard physically, then think about all of the other things that you can accomplish, right? Maybe there's another goal that you've set for yourself where it comes to, I want to start my own business. Well, all the same skills apply, right? You're going to suck at first. It's going to be uncomfortable. There are going to be pains that come with it. There's going to be fear that comes with it. But if you can leverage your discipline and your emotional intelligence and control your mindset, then you can push through it. And the results are going to be incredible. It's the one thing, your body is the one thing that you have complete control of. Again, for the most part, right? Obviously, certain medical conditions and all that stuff, but you don't have to be rich. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be anything other than discipline in order to have an outstanding, healthy physique, right? So I do think that almost everybody can do it, but they're not, because we promote the most garbage, things in society, right? Like our diets in America are terrible. Our mindsets are terrible. Our, look on exercise is almost negative as well in many ways, because we're promoting, there's this whole thing going around right now where you can't body shame people, right? And this like body positivity. And I don't think you should body shame somebody, but I also think that there's a realistic expectation of what is healthy and what isn't healthy. And when you're vastly overweight, that shouldn't be praised. That should be talked about and saying, hey, like, you need to get your life on track. And I also think that many of the, chronic health issues that we see in society today, specifically in America, could be resolved with increased water intake, a balanced diet, and increase in physical fitness. And I'm not even saying like do the things that we do. I'm just saying get out and walk, like,
Right.
be active, stop sitting in front of your TV, stop scrolling social media, stop playing video games and drinking pop, and you don't even have to stop all that stuff. Just cut back. Right. And add some actual
you
physical
should stop.
activities.
If you could stop drinking pop.
Like, well, if you, yeah, sure.
Like, you should. But
yeah,
like, I know some guys who are really into their diet Pepsis, and they're always drinking those things.
Yeah, well,
is that Mr. Brian Swick here?
You'll be happy to know there's no pop in this house. So
that's awesome. I'm glad that you stopped drinking Diet Pepsi. So.
Never thought it was gonna be a big concern, and now I realized just how much it did affect me. It's the same conversation I had with my father. He was a diabetic. I'm like, Pops, you got to do something about it. Cut the pop. Started exercising, walking. He's no longer on diabetic medication. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. That's a good, yes, right there. That's an amazing point. Is like, just by making that change, right? And people, if you improve these 5 skills that we talk about, then these things become very easy. Before I got down to Texas, I was drinking a lot of energy drinks. So I got in a really bad habit with that last summer when I was working for the roofing company. I was working all day out in the heat, something that I wasn't used to because I was working a corporate desk job for 10 years. So I was pounding caffeine really bad. Like, I'm drinking at least 1 a day, sometimes 2 a day. And those things are terrible for you, even though they don't have calories. They have chemicals, and the amount of caffeine is off the charts. It's ridiculous. So I was working with one of my coaching clients, and we were talking about being more intentional with finances, right? And then he was drinking an energy drink at the time. We both were. I'm like, how many of those a week do you drink? Well, sometimes 2 a day. Think about just that. I know it's not a substantial amount of money, but it's a start. And let's start being intentional by cutting it back. Do you just cut back 2 a week? I don't know if I can do that. I get real tired at work and all this stuff. I'm like, I drink one of these almost every single day. If you ask me to put it down for 30 days for a month, I will do it. No question. Too easy. And we made that commitment. And I think today is 29 days since I've picked up an energy drink. And awesome. It's just simple. Like, it's just discipline. Put it down, stay away from it, don't buy it, and then take that money and start putting it towards something beneficial. Like, you want to start a business, there's plenty of ways to get that money for it. You just have to be disciplined and intentional with where that money's going.
That's quite a bit of money too. You figure those are like, even if it's like $3 a drink and you're drinking 2 a day, that's $6 times 7 days, $42 a week on energy drinks. I
Yeah.
mean, that adds up quick. It's like people that smoke.
That's
Same
a tank
thing.
of fuel.
Yeah.
People complain about fuel prices. That's the tank of fuel.
Right.
Yeah, it's a tank of gas. But then if you take it a step further, well, at the end of the year, take that money and invest it into something that makes you 10%, right? And then you
And
take that
invest it
habit.
into energy drink.
Yeah. Or invest it into yourself. Invest it into yourself and hire a coach that's going to help you with your mindset,
Oh, like IDEAL coaching.
like ideal coaching. Yeah.
Shameless plug.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of, and I mean, I think that's just a societal issue right now where we just lack discipline. We're force fed bullshit through advertising and video games, and we take the easy way out. And I mean, we're all guilty of it, right? Like I slip into it from time to time. I was horribly guilty of it for a majority of my life, and then I got intentional and I pulled my shit together, and here we are now, and trying to help other people do the same thing.
Right. I mean, I think it's real interesting that you just said people look for the easy way out, and then you see like all these like things out there where it's like, oh, if you could put on this belt and it'll vibrate on your tummy, and then you'll have 6-pack abs, or take this pill, you're gonna lose 100 pounds, you'll never have to work out, or 6-minute abs, or
Yeah.
5-minute abs,
or the gastro bypass surgery or gastric bypass surgery, where you could just, why would I go and spend 2 years doing a lot of hard work when I can just have the doctor do it for me? And then the best part is they don't understand that, well, your stomach is elastic, so that it's temporary. If you continue to force feed yourself, that doesn't do its job anymore, and you're going to gain all that weight. And I've seen that happen to people personally. It's just, no, like, do the hard work. And the other thing too with that is, it wouldn't be such hard work if it wasn't for the food in our society, right? Like the cheap food for the most part is crap. It's full of garbage, processed chemicals, and now this all thing with the seed oils, and I haven't studied that much yet, but that's, again, it's easy to go to McDonald's and grab that. It's a lot harder to go home and cook yourself a healthy, nutritious meal with whole foods. And it's hard to even get whole foods at the store sometimes because everything is full of crap. And it's like, you get natural peanut butter and then you look at it and it has palm oil in it. It's like, well, that's not a natural thing that happens in peanut butter. I want peanut oil. It should say peanuts. That should be the only thing in your peanut butter, really.
Peanuts.
Yeah.
I mean,
weird.
Look at the cost of this stuff too. You go and you buy crap food, and it's so much cheaper than going and trying to buy healthy food.
Yeah, the little jar of whole, like, truly all natural peanut butter is wildly more expensive than a big thing of like Jif. But me personally, like, I look at my physical health and I look at that as an investment. So yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, and I get it. Like, other people, not everybody is in a financial position to do that. But then, well, don't eat as much of it, right? Like, if you're not able to buy all of the healthy things, do what you can. And there are ways around that. Like, you can get your protein, you can do all these things in a cost-effective way and build up to that, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it comes back to taking that easy way out. And I think it comes back to like the military thing. Like, we're lowering the standards. Well, why would I join the military and do all that hard stuff when I can play Call of Duty in my mom's basement,
So what it all comes down to is whether they have a gastric bypass surgery, which costs them a ton of money, or if they have the drive to eat healthy and spend a lot of money. In the long run, discipline depicts what has the outcome. If you have the surgery and you're not disciplined in what you eat and you start eating crap again, it's not going to work for you. If you're doing the workouts and you're eating healthy, but you don't have the discipline to stick with it, it's not going to work out for you. Yeah. So at the end of the day, discipline is where it's at.
Yeah, it all comes back to that mindset. Yeah, that was a great point. Yeah, one way or the other, it all comes back to the mindset. Either that's going to be a really temporary solution, or you're going to use that as motivation to find that discipline and keep that weight off in the long run. And unfortunately, most people that go through that experience, I'd be very willing to bet they weren't disciplined before.
Right.
So why the hell are they going to be disciplined now? Unless you're doing something intentional to work on that discipline, chances are you're not going to do it.
The surgery doesn't fix your mindset. The surgery just is a temporary fix. You still have to change your lifestyle.
Right.
You're absolutely right. And I'm sure there is a small number of people out there that, like, oh my gosh, I just spent thousands of dollars to have this surgery. I really need to stick with it. And for some people, it probably drives them. but for the other person, there's no guarantee.
Well, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but you're also like, surgery is risky. Like,
Sure,
things can go wrong. Like, I have a family member who passed away after gastric bypass surgery. So I'm not saying that was the stem from it, but anytime you go under the knife, it's not like, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. Anything could go wrong.
sure.
Yeah, and what is the mental and or I guess we'll say mindset advantage to that? It's teaching you that there's an easy way out, right? It's not, in my opinion, and I'm not judging people that do it. By all means, you guys, I'm very big on live and let live. If that's what you want to do, please go ahead and do it. I'm not trying to preach to anybody. It's just I'm talking about my opinion in my life. If I were in that situation, I would fix my mindset. You have to fix your mindset first and then start working on everything else, because with the wrong mindset, nothing else truly matters, because you're going to go right back to those old habits, and especially discipline. Like, it takes a lot of discipline to create new habits, create a new lifestyle, and actually make long-term progress and achieve the level of success that you set for yourself.
Well, you look at our country, and we're probably the most obese country in the world. So how do you fix this mindset? You're talking about discipline, and you need to fix your mindset. Like, what would you do first to help address this problem?
Oh man. Everyone is required to read Can't Hurt Me. And you have to listen to Dave Goggins' voice before you read it, so you can read the whole book in his voice. But that's I'm joking when I say that, but I do think that certain things, like certain books, I'm not saying they should be required, because I feel like that's government overreach, but
yeah,
that's a big question. That is a very big question. And I think really right now, what it comes down to in our society, and you see it all over the place, but just a lack of values. So one, obviously going back and looking at our past and our history, our values haven't always been great, right? So obviously in the United States, there was slavery, and even going on into the 60s with segregation, and even today there's racism. So there's been messed up values for a long time. But if we look back, I think it's just progressively getting worse. So how do you do that? I think that's the key question, right? How do you get people back to good, wholesome values, and maybe not the same values that we used to have, but new, improved 2023 values, where we can have actual conversations with each other, where we can hold each other accountable as people, where we can be respectful, where we can agree to disagree, right? Like, you don't have to agree with me, but I do appreciate when you are disagreeing with me, that you treat me as a human being, and you're respectful and you're kind. And that's how we start to make progress. So I guess, talking through that a little bit, I would say the biggest thing for us as a society right now is we can't disagree on anything. There is according to a lot of people, there is a right and a wrong, and there's no in between. There's no gray area, so they can't agree on anything. So kind of unrelated to the question that you asked, but I think that's probably the biggest thing going on in society right now, is we cannot healthily disagree. Everything is an attack. Everything is super far left, or it's super far right. There's no emotional intelligence or intentionality when it comes to having a conversation. And there's way too much ego that goes into all of this. And in order for us to fix any problems, whether it's the lack of discipline in our society, whether it's the obesity problem, whether it's the extreme divisiveness and the racism, whatever you want to point to, it all comes back to a lack of values. And then it all comes back to a point where we just can't have a civil conversation with, okay, we have all of these problems. How do we actually fix this? And we look at it, and that's horribly rampant in politics, right? They can't have a conversation and agree on absolutely anything. So you have somebody do one thing for 4 years, and then you have somebody else come in and flip it all upside down. And then we're right back at square one, if not in a worse place. So how do we fix that? I think if we can fix, how do we have actual conversations in order to fix issues that we face in society? And then what are some values that we can agree on that everybody needs to have as human beings, and teach them to have those? Well, then we can start really making progress. But man, that's a massive issue to tackle. It's like, is that even possible? I don't know. And
I
we've
don't know.
talked about some things, right?
These have become a huge ass problem.
Yes. Phones, social media. I think social media is a big driving factor as far as the communication issue, right? When you're on social media, I've dealt with it through Ideal, right? I'll make a post about something and there'll be a lot of people that agree with me, and the people that disagree with me, typically, I mean, there are some that can have a legit conversation, and that's what we're trying to promote. But some people just attack me. I've been called a racist. I've been called a Nazi, and nothing I've posted about has anything to do with race or anything. It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, can't we just treat each other as human beings? And on Rogan's podcast, he had Dr. Phil on, and Dr. Phil had an experiment. So there was Democrats and Republicans from a college, and they were just attacking each other on social media and all this stuff. And he brought them together. And again, they started that. And he's like, I'm just going to, you each pair up and stare in each other's eyes for, I think it was like 5 minutes or something like that. And after they did that, they were like, wow, like we never even like looked at this person as a human being until now. And that's because of the interaction through social media and the internet. You can dehumanize people very easily. I can call you or your profile, blah, 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 whatever, and there's no consequences for it. And I don't really think about how it makes you feel, right? There's no intentionality. And that's one big thing that I've posted about, and I've tried to promote this is, if you wouldn't say it to someone's face, don't say it on social media.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guarantee most of those people wouldn't say those things to someone's face.
Like, why would you? Like, I don't like, you can get your point across without attacking somebody or calling them a name, or
But they can't.
you can.
That's the problem.
they
No, I'm
choose
saying
not
they can't because they don't know how to, is because we've lost that skill, is how I feel about it.
So there was a scenario that I'm going to bring up here referring to my previous job and career, but I went to a diversity training, and at the time, you know, you hear diversity and automatically you kind of think race, religion, stuff like that, right? So we get there and it's in a large auditorium, and every single one of us there, men and women, are anticipating that speech about those things, and it was not. It was absolutely anything and everything to do with the generation of today, and when stopping somebody of this younger generation, how we need to talk to them and how we need to treat them, because they've grown up in a world of social media. They rely on the likes that they get in their posts. When they have negative feelings, it creates depression and anxiety, and further. This is a huge ordeal. But I believe that when we went, we were basically told we had to adjust to the way of this new generation. You mentioned intentionality a minute ago. If we could all just teach maybe the next couple of generations, my children I'm raising, Randy's children you're raising, of respect, dignity, you know, kindness, we, the American people, can change a lot more than our government can right now. And it starts with us.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. The government's not there to, the government, in my opinion, is there to keep us free. They're not there to protect us or to keep, we have to do those things, right? And I mean, is there some level to that? Obviously, yes. We have the military from foreign threats, all of that. But you nailed it, Brian. Like, it's our responsibility to fix this. And I think that's another huge thing that's like lacking in society, is we always want somebody else to do it for us. We're always looking for somebody else to save us in our society currently. That's not how it works. That's if you want the government to save you, good luck. Like, that's not good. They don't give a shit about
They
you as an
do not
individual.
care.
No, they don't care. So you need to take, and that's where it comes to accountability, right? We need to take ownership as a society and say, hey, shit's really bad right now. We need to come together and actually fix it. And Randy, you hit on that a little bit in episode number 1. It's like, what is it going to take? I personally 100% agree with you. I think it's going to take some sort of cataclysmic event for us to wake up and be like, oh shit, like we fucked up. Like, it's time now. We don't have a choice. Now it's time to fix it. And hopefully we can not do that. But, you know, hard times create strong men create easy times, you know, easy times create weak men, or how, you know, that saying. And I think we're there right now. Like, I think we're in that cycle because it is cyclical. If you look back at history, that is cyclical, And it happens about every 80 to 100 years. And if you look back to where we were 80 to 100 years ago, maybe you didn't agree with some of the things that were going on in that period of time. But overall, from a society standpoint, as the United States, we were pretty strong. And now I cannot agree with that.
I agree with you on that.
Absolutely.
I know as like as a teacher, like the education aspect, we talked about this in episode 1 a little bit. It's like these things aren't happening in school. Like even like we're talking about eating healthy. Well, like the first thing to go in education was health. Like elementary school kids, they don't get any health education. They get, your basic curriculum, and then they get PE. There's no time for health. So you have young kids who aren't learning these things. And I think maybe you get a semester of it when you get to middle school, and then you do like an online course when you get to high school. So you're not getting a whole lot of education on something that's pretty freaking important.
Well, yeah, and it's a combination, right? It's a combination of the education system, and it's a combination of the way that these kids are being parented, which is totally different for the most part from the way that our generation was parent, which is crazy, right? Because it's our generation that are raising the kids right now, and for some reason, something happened in there where we were told that everything our parents did was wrong, and don't get me wrong. Do I have plenty of regrets and things that I've done in my life that are fucked up and that I wish I wouldn't have done? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, like, I still think I'm a pretty good person, especially over the last couple of years where I've actually started to take control of my life and, live intentionally and be all of these things that we talk about. And, it's just not going on at home. So you have all of this, lack of values at home, and then they come to school and you're not allowed to do anything at school as a teacher, right? The administration scoffs at you, the parents scoff at you. It's just, we're in a really, really, really bad spot right now. And I think as time goes on, everything gets worse faster. Like it just keeps getting sped up. And a lot of that has to do with the technology that we talked about before.
Right. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I feel like I'm living in the wrong generation. Like I was born at the wrong time, and I should have been born earlier and not dealing with all this crap. And I know it's only going to get worse for my kids. So I want to fix it. And I think having an open dialogue will help, but I don't know. Like you said, I don't know if it's going to take some crazy catastrophic event. It's going to get everybody on the same page, because you feel like 9/11 was a pretty big thing. And I feel like we were united for a little bit, and then it just went right back to normal.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with, we just need to teach people how to use things intentionally, right? Like if I'm using social media, what is my intent behind it? If you're mindlessly scrolling and you're just letting yourself absorb bullshit and get caught into these like horribly, emotionally unintelligent conversations, I'll say, then it's bad. If you use it with a purpose to go in and say, hey, I'm trying to promote a positive message, I want to connect with people and I want to show them that we can disagree and have conversations, right? So, or I'm going on to, I really want to learn about hiking or the specific thing. There are good things with social media. And I think when social media was constructed, the intent behind it was good, right? Like I want to connect people. The one thing I love about social media is I haven't had any reason to go to a high school reunion because I connect with those people all the time that I want to talk to, right?
Right.
So, I think there are a lot of positives, but it all comes back to intentionality with the people that run that stuff, right? Like what are their intentions with it? And if you ever watch The Social Dilemma, if you haven't watched it, watch it. And if you have, you'll see the intent behind what they're doing and these algorithms and all the shit that they're shoving in your face on a day-to-day basis. It's all intentional. And now you have states like banning, I think it was Montana, or Wyoming. They're banning TikTok, like in the state. Like, and there's reasons why they're doing that. And I mean, agree or disagree, I think that they have the state and hopefully the country's best interest in mind when they're doing stuff like that. But it's sad because we just lack the personal values. By lacking values, we're giving the government more and more control to make decisions for us because we don't know what to do.
I have a 6-year-old son that comes home and he'll tell me he'll do something, and I say, "Where did you learn that? Where did you see that?" TikTok. I'm like,
Right.
what?
Yeah.
Right,
You're
like,
6. Why are you even watching TikTok? I'm 38 years old, 39 years old, and I don't watch TikTok.
yeah,
I don't
have
know.
TikTok either.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this one, but I was just talking to some other friends about this before we got on today. There's a Benadryl challenge. Some kid overdosed on Benadryl because he saw it on TikTok, and not only that, but if you now our kids stupid, ignorant, I should say, because they lack life experience. Yes, like we all did dumb shit when we were kids. I drove around throwing acorns at people out of my 95 Ford Escort. Like we egged people, we drank, but nowhere ever would have crossed my mind to take pills or do coke or like hard drugs or anything, because my parents instilled specific values in me where I knew not to do those things. And I had seen the consequences of some of that stuff, right? But now, again, it comes back to there's no accountability, there's no intentionality, there's no discipline, there's no loyalty to your goals, your family, your friends, and all this stuff. Because, and again, I'm generalizing here, but you know, and if those kids had these values, chances are they wouldn't do something that stupid. And again, I don't know this kid, I don't know the family, and that might not be the case. So again, I'm generalizing, but you see it more and more frequently now. And I think it's a combination of social media and just lack of values.
Well, yeah, they had the TikTok challenge, like hit a teacher, like run up to a teacher, hit them, and then run away. And then you got like thousands of kids taking videos of them striking somebody and then running off. Well, one, you did it on video, dummy, so you're gonna get in trouble.
Right.
You just posted it. But like these TikTok challenges, like you said, like what is the intention of the people in charge of TikTok? Like this stuff is going up on your site and you're allowing it to be on there because it's getting a lot of hits, it's getting a lot of views, and they're gonna make money off of it.
Then you watch a video,
and there's no
like
accountability there either. Like,
No.
what does TikTok get held accountable for any of this shit?
No. You see the video the other day of the riots in downtown area, and majority of the people are actually running to it with a phone in their hand because they want the likes from all their friends because they were right there to see it. They're putting themselves in harm's way, and it's only furthering people getting hurt because, again, they don't do anything to control it.
No, they want to go viral. They want to get this cool video so they can go viral because it gives them a sense of fulfillment because they're lacking real values in their life. That's how they get their sense of appreciation and that they matter.
And I agree with you 100%. And I'm just saying that the platform itself is not doing anything to regulate, to talk, stop this stuff. Local high school here had a fight page. Nobody, you knew the story.
Right.
There was the school basically put together a fight page, and they changed the letters in the name of the school, so you couldn't just search it unless you knew exactly what it was. But there were dozens of fights on this because they thought it was cool. But yet the platform itself, and I won't use the name of the platform, but the platform itself has to know that this stuff is going up. There's got to be some type of monitoring going on because they're banning everything else that they don't want you to see about government this or that. So why isn't that taken care of?
That's a lot of views. That's
good. Damn. It's marketing. It all comes down to the almighty dollar. I mean,
and it's all on that focus group in which they're trying to hit that generation right now that is impressionable, that they just want their product to be put out there, and it doesn't matter who it's affecting.
Yeah, 100%. It's again, it's sad. I mean, and again, like, I don't know. I if it were me, like if I were the president of the United States, right? Like I would say, hey, we have a problem. I don't know how to fix it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull together the most brilliant people I possibly can on both sides of the aisle. And we're going to sit down and we're going to fix this shit. And we're going to do it. And we're going to sit here until it's fixed, until we can come to some sort of agreement. We're not going to agree on everything. It's not going to be perfect, but we have to do something. And again, that's where it goes back to, there's no ownership in the government. The government, like, have you ever heard a president stand up and say, that was my fault. Like I messed up and I'm going to do everything in my control to fix it and never let that happen again. Like, I'm
thinking Bill Clinton when you say that.
Yeah. Like, hey, listen, like I
did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I hooked up with this intern. Like, that's on me. That's my bad.
No, he blamed her. He was like, no, it wasn't me. It was her.
Yeah, and I guarantee that he had a whole team of people telling him exactly to do that. And that's it again, like, and you're a kid. So think about, you're a kid and you're seeing the most powerful people in the country, people that you might idolize, right? There are a lot of kids that they look up to the president of the United States. And I know I did when I was a kid, like when I was at DC in 8th grade, I was like, oh my God, like the president lives there is so cool, blah, blah, you know, but you're seeing them do all the wrong things. They don't take ownership. They don't have accountability. There's a huge lack of emotional intelligence. Where's their fucking loyalty? Who knows where their loyalty is? Because it's really hard to say it's the United States recently. So, then you see this stuff and you do it in the same thing with musicians and athletes and all of these people. And in my opinion, the wrong people that we look up to as a society, and they get away with it. They don't do any of these things. So why the hell would I? And again, you see it all over social media too. Like these kids are looking up to guys like Andrew Tate. Like, I'm sorry, the guy's a douchebag. Like, do you feel what he is? I mean, like, he has said some good things and, I'm like, damn, that's a good point. And I like that. But the guy's a douchebag. Like, I wouldn't want my kid looking up to fucking Andrew Tate. You know what I mean?
So
it's sad.
What you're saying is like kids could be watching the current president's offspring not being charged for smoking crack on video and stuff like that, but and nothing's being done about it. Yeah, there's accusations and they're looking into it and this, that, and the other thing. But this was how long ago and the guy's still walking around. Why would a high school kid fear getting caught with maybe some pot in his book bag at school?
Right. Well, and I mean, let's be honest, like pot's one thing. Let's not demonize pot. All right.
No, you know me. I'm just saying in high school, it is strictly forbidden. So
yes,
again,
it's against the rules.
There's no reason to be like, oh, well, I better not do this because
yes. And even though like I personally don't think there's anything wrong with weed or anything like that, there are still rules, like you said,
Sure.
and that rule, if you have values, you will still abide by that rule. Like even though weed is legal to smoke in certain states, like you're in the military, you can't do it. Sure. And if you have loyalty and you have these values, you're going to stick to that, and you're going to place your mission as a member of the United States military first before doing that. And you're absolutely right. Like when it comes to that whole issue with,
I'm just saying, and that I have a medical card, so I'm all for it, just like you are. But in certain circumstances, it's either against the law still, or it's a policy of a business or in the school or whatever. That's all I'm getting at. But
I mean, there's a time and a place. There's a time and a place.
Exactly.
Yes. And you look at
drink alcohol. I'm not going to get drunk and go to work.
Right. Or drive or anything like that. Right. And that's we could do a whole topic on alcohol and that. But the other point that I was going to make is, so that was a very good point, obviously, with the current president's son. But then also look at this whole thing with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. How can you be convicted of sex trafficking minors and stuff like that, but there's no who the fuck bought them? Where'd they go? Who are they sold to? Like who are they trafficked to? And damn well, if you've watched any of the stuff behind that, people in very high places, former presidents, royal family members, billionaires, all of these people were involved in that. And it's like, we want actual justice. Ghislaine Maxwell serving the rest of her life in prison, to me, it's not enough. It's simply not enough but where is the accountability? That she's a scapegoat. They're holding her accountable because they were forced to, and there's no accountability for all of these countless. I can't even imagine how many people were completely, involved in that, but there's no accountability for that. And again, that's just another message that people are seeing in life. Well, if I get rich, then I can get away with whatever the hell I want.
I can do whatever I want to do.
But if you
get away with all of it.
But if you read in your local newspaper, this guy was responsible for a shooting, but then this guy who was an accomplice that drove the car, and this guy who was the one that helped get the gun, they're all wound up, right? As they should be.
Right.
But why not in the big picture? Why not have something in such a scale that is affecting? What is it about?
Money. It all comes down to money. It's the same issue. Like, man, damn, maybe that should be my answer. Like, what's wrong with society? And the best part is our money it's not really worth anything at the end of the day. Like the government just prints as much of it as they want. There's no backing to it, right? There's no gold standard. There hasn't been for a very long time. So when you really think about it, you're doing all of this and living your life strictly for something that really doesn't mean anything. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, it can get you freedom, and I'm on that path, right? Like, I have 2 rental properties, and obviously, like, we're starting a business, and I get that, you know, I get we need money. It's unfortunately it's part of our society at this point, but at the end of the day, you die rich, and who cares? Like, at the end of the day, you're going to get forgotten. Like, that's just a matter of time. Whether it's within 1 generation, 10 generations, it doesn't matter. At some point, you're going to get forgotten. Why don't you just live your life to the fullest and stop worrying so much about money?
Randy can probably recall this because I said it all the time. As a kid, I would say, I want to have kids young. I wanted to be the dad out of high school like it was years and years ago, you know. And people were like, "Oh, why do you want to do that?" Well, because I value my family. I could have the most money in the world. I could be Bill Gates rich. But have no friends or family, be the poorest bastard on earth. I've heard a lot of people say it lately. Wealth is not measured by money. It's measured by what people think of you if they come to you when they need help. And ultimately, I think that's what we're trying to accomplish here is build people up to make them realize their own potential and start spreading that.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to really help people realize that you can live your life by your design. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of work, but no matter the situation, if you are willing to put in the work, you can get out of the situation that you're in and you can live life the way that you see it, right? So for me, right, like I had a 10-year, 11-year career in the corporate world, and I was broke at one point, right? I had $85,000 in student loan debt. I was making $11 an hour. I thank my parents for helping me through that time. I thank my ex-wife for helping me through that time. She taught me a lot when it came to managing my finances and controlling my spending and all of that stuff. So I thank her so much for that. But I kept, I got into this job and I was making more money than I could have ever imagined. Randy and I were at drill, and I got the call that I got my first supervisor job. And I went from, I got like a $26,000 a year raise. And that was just my base salary. That didn't include the much larger bonus that I was getting. And at that time, that was my only concern. My only concern was making more money so I could pay off this debt, and I wasn't some broke bum, living off my wife at the time. So I was ecstatic. And then I got my next raise and my next promotion, and I made more money, and I started making more money than, and I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like I wasn't making some ridiculous amount of money, but I was making more money than I ever expected to make. Like, I made over $100,000. And that was way more money than I would ever expect to make. I remember graduating college and be like, man, if I make 50 grand a year, like I'm gonna be good. I'm never gonna need another job or anything like that. And what happened in that time was they became the golden handcuffs, right? Like, I got myself into this situation where I was making a very good living. I was very comfortable. I had the things that I needed, but I was miserable. I was so horribly miserable. And a lot of that misery came from the feeling that there was nothing that I could do about it at that point. It's like, how are you ever going to go make this much money again? How are you ever going to replace this income? Like, you can't do it. There's no way out at this point. You're in your 30s. Like, there's no way you can go start a business. You're stuck. And it just became this horrible, defeating, empty, overwhelming feeling. It was, and don't get me wrong, like, plenty of people have been in worse situations in their life. Like, I'm sitting here complaining because I was making $100,000. So I get how that sounds. So, but the mindset that at that time, like, that wasn't what it was about. I didn't care about the money. I cared about the lifestyle that I was living. And so I did care about the money, but I was bound by it more than, I wasn't using it for any sort of freedom. It was a chain that was keeping me bound to something that I was miserable in. Right. And it almost got me. it almost got me. I had those days. I had a couple, two specific times I can remember where I understood how people could get to the point where they took their own life. If you consistently live with that sense of emptiness, then I got it. I didn't plan it. I wasn't suicidal specifically, but it clicked and I was like, shit, I got to do something and I got to do it soon, right? So then I started getting my life together. I started, okay, I have to be intentional with where I'm spending my time, with the people that I'm surrounding myself with. I have to be disciplined and push myself out of my comfort zone, because I would rather be uncomfortable than live a life of regret. I sat there and I remember picturing myself as an old man, like on my deathbed, and thinking, if I stay in this career path at a corporate job that didn't provide me any sense of fulfillment, that didn't allow me to truly help people in the way that I wanted to help them, it became my greatest fear. I couldn't imagine being on my deathbed and living with that level of regret and be like, you coward, you let comfort control you, and you let fear control you. Do it now before it's too late. And then it got to the point where I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm motivated, but what do I do? I have no clue what to do or how to get myself to that point where I'm actually happy. And it took me joining that mastermind in order to really start this, cataclysmic event in my life. So I never wanted to join a mastermind. I thought it was crazy that I was paying to be a part of this group of people, right? But I got convinced to do it because, again, I was at a very low point. And I'm like, all right, it's $500. I'll get it back. No big deal. Do it. What is there to lose? And that thing changed my life, right? I was finally being intentional. I surrounded myself with some very successful people through that group, and people that I still am connected with, and I'm still a member of that group, but at a higher level. And that got me on this path of being super intentional and being able to lead Progressive, right? I had a great conversation with Jamie Gruber, who runs that program, and he's like, first of all, dude, relax. Like, you're fine. Like, you need to stop freaking out. You're financially fine. You have a good wife. Like, you're a great relationship. Like, you're fine. But he's like, what would you do? If you could do anything, money wasn't a problem, you're not going to make money for 2 years doing it, what would you do? I'm like, I love helping people develop as leaders and just develop personally. That's what I love doing. I do it all the time for free now. So I'm not making money doing it now, but I still love it. He's like, that's what you need to do. You need to figure out how to do it. He's like, and he gave me some pointers and everything on that, which is a lot of what we're doing currently. But that one phone call really changed my outlook and said, damn, this shit's possible. Like, Jocko Willink was a huge influence on what we're doing. And I'm like, my mindset was, I'm never going to be Jocko Willink. Well, after that call, it was like, I don't have to be Jocko Willink. I can be Kyle Wakeman, and Randy can be Randy Myers, and Brian can be Brian Swick. And we can do something like what they're doing, but at a different level and on different pillars and all of this stuff. Like, let's get after it right there. So we did. And then I just really started getting intentional with being able to, I'm like, first of all, I got to get out of this W-2. Like, this thing is a massive roadblock to what I'm doing. Well, how do I do that? How do I leave 100 and, sometimes with my bonus, it was over $130,000 it could have been that I was making. Well, how do I get out of that? All right. Well, we can sell Callie's car. That's $20,000 in debt we eliminate, right? We eliminate $500 a month in a car payment. We purchase a rental property. We turn our house into a rental property. We move down to Texas for 4 or 5 months until we can buy our third property, which we'll live in for a little bit, and then we'll turn into another rental. I can rent my truck out on Turo. And none of this stuff was easy. Like, none of that was easy to do. I had a lot of stuff to figure out. You don't just do that overnight. But my mindset was 100% in my control, and how I thought about that stuff was 100% in my control. So I was super intentional, and I designed my life to be able to leave my W-2 job and take this risk. And I have zero, I shouldn't say zero. I have zero doubt of how my life will look in the future, but there is a lot of fear that comes with that. There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of the imposter syndrome that comes through, and it's like, who the fuck are you? Like, are you having a midlife crisis? Like, Brian, Randy, and I talked about this before the call. It's like, yesterday was a bad day. I had a lot of fear, a lot of doubt. But again, I realized that my mindset's within my control. So I had some really good conversations. I corrected my mindset. And here we are doing something that, you know, we never, none of us ever thought we were going to be doing, recording a podcast and, you know, and helping other people live their life the same way and be able to take the same steps and not live a life full of regret. So my advice to everybody is, if you're going to fear one thing, like fear regret. Like I was so afraid to go broke that I sat in a career for 10 years and I got no fulfillment out of it. And I started imagining myself as like that old man on my bed and how much I would have regretted never going all in on something that would actually make me happy. And when you look at the big picture, we're all going to die. Like we talked about, we're all going to die. There's no avoiding that. And in probably one generation, no one's going to remember who we are. And like, I get that that's kind of dark and it might be like kind of deflating for some people, but it's the truth. So, you know, would you rather die after a mediocre, comfortable life full of regret? Or would you rather like be there laying on your deathbed and say, damn, like that was wild. Like I did it. I took the risk. I accomplished my goals. And even if you didn't accomplish your goals, at least you didn't regret it. You did it. You tried it. You took the risk. So that's like my one biggest piece of advice is like, you have to focus on your mindset and don't let fear control you, because man, I can't imagine being on my deathbed and just regretting my entire life.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. And I know your story obviously because we're friends and but like you went back at first. Like you left your job and then you went back to your job.
Talk about fear controlling you. Yeah.
Right. And then you left again and it feels like you're going to stay gone this time. But like, I feel like there's a lot of people in the same position. Like they don't like what they're doing and they're just afraid to take that jump. So that's really good advice that you gave them.
Well, yeah, and the other piece of advice is there's so many ways to make money right now. Like now's the time to do it. You can make money you can sell feet pictures on the internet if you have to. If that makes you happy and it gets you out of doing something that you're miserable doing, then I mean, if you're of age and you're of, sound mind, go ahead and do whatever it is that you need to do. But yeah, and again, fear had played a lot of part of that. And I don't think at this point, after going back and then quitting in 5 months, I don't think my former employer will welcome me back for
No, but like if you had to, you could go find something else
Yeah.
that's similar to that position. So it's not like you left and could never find another job if that's something that you had to do. Like people are so scared to take this jump, but like if I left my job, I could eventually go back and find another job just like it.
Yeah, and it's going to suck for a little while, but at least you did it, and you know that you can do it. That was the best thing about leaving the first time, is it just proved to me that I could do it, that I had the courage to overcome that fear, and I could do it. Now I ran back, but again, and that was a good point that you just made, Randy. It's like, that's another that I should have made, is I lined up a freelance recruiting job. Like I have a job that I work 10, 12, 15 hours a week now to keep money coming in. Now I'm not going to make probably as much as I was at Progressive, but I'm making enough now that I've designed my life in a way to where I don't need as much money and I can still live the same lifestyle. And not only that, but I can, because I don't have any bills, we have cell phones and my truck payment. That's it. And now we can do things that we want to do. I can go to camping in Big Bend, which we're doing in a couple months. I can go across the street and go fishing all day if I really wanted to. I can go out on runs and walks and workouts, and whenever I want to, I just move my calendar around. I move appointments around. I block my stuff off. And again, I'm making less money than I have in a very, very long time. And I'm more happy right now than I have been in. I can't even tell you the last time that I felt this free. And and it comes with its own set of stresses and fears and doubts, like we mentioned, but man, that's part of being free. Part of being free is there are going to be some really tough challenges that come with it, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's awesome.
I think we accomplished the goal we set out to and really learned who Kyle is. Kyle, I think that you just shared the most powerful thing that you're trying to convey here is your life story right now.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of small details and nuances that I'm sure we'll get into in future episodes. But yeah, it was awesome. This is exactly what we're trying to do is just share our stories and get people to understand that you can be at some really low points and you can feel like you're out of control of your life, but that's not the case. Your entire life is controlled by your mindset. And if you can fix your mindset, you can fix anything. And I know that sounds crazy, and I used to think that was complete bullshit until I did it myself. And that's what we're here to do, is we're here to help people do the same thing.
So you did share a lot of great stuff with us tonight. So to end this, with one last question, out of all the ideal skills, there's 5 of them. Which one do you think is the most important? How do you define it, and why do you think that's the most important to you?
Yeah, man, this is always a good question. Even though by always we've asked it twice, but I think it's going to be a really good question for all of our guests moving forward. So,
right.
Man, it's so hard because when we talk about these things, and you probably caught on to, and I think we mentioned to it a little bit in the first episode, but all of these 5 skills: intentionality, discipline, emotional intelligence, accountability, and loyalty, they all tie together. You really have to be all 5 in order to be one. So they're all extremely important. But if I had to pick one thing, it would be discipline. And we look at discipline. So doing what needs to get done in order to achieve the results that you want, regardless of how you feel. Right. And many people confuse discipline and motivation. People used to ask me that all the time. How do you stay so motivated to work? I was like, I'm not motivated. I don't want to do this stuff. And Randy, you talked about that. It's like, I don't want to read every single day. I don't want to stretch every single day. I don't want to do these. I would much rather eat ice cream and go to the lake and go fishing. But there's stuff that needs to get done if I want to continue to live my life by design. So, and not only that, but discipline we talk about as the backbone of these 5 skills, because if you're not disciplined, then you're not going to be emotionally intelligent. You're not going to approach things with the right intent. You're not going to remember to be loyal to the things that you have going on in your life. And you're not going to remember to balance your loyalty, because that's a tough one too. And if you're not disciplined, I'll tell you what, you're not going to hold yourself accountable, because those two are very, very closely tied together. That's the hardest thing, is to hold yourself accountable. It's easy for me when Randy messes up or Brian messes up. It's easy for me to call them out on that, right? It's a lot harder to look in the mirror and say, hey, you messed up. You should have done better. Now you need to take action and take ownership in order to fix it, right? But again, without discipline, you're not going to do any of those things. So I personally think that's the most important one. I think it's a skill that is transferable across so many different things, whether you're training jujitsu, whether you're being a parent, whether you're being a leader, whether you're being an employee. Discipline will get you through when many other things can't. So I think that's a big one. And again, shout out to somebody that we look up to greatly, Jocko Willink, because
Discipline
really
equals freedom.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, I think David Goggins' book took it to another level for me, but really it all started with Jocko, his podcast, his books, and the words that he says, and really, like, we have to pat ourselves on the back a little bit too, because we easily could have read those things or listened to those words and then done nothing with it. So not only do you have to do all these things, you have to surround yourself with the right people, you have to listen to the right things, learn from the right things, and then most importantly, you have to take ownership of it and actually take action and do it, because knowledge without action is completely useless.
So for our listeners out there that are looking to get more discipline in their lives, like, what advice would you give them to get them started on the right track with that?
Yeah, I think discipline, first of all, we all have some level of all 5 of these skills. Like, everybody has these in them somewhere, right? It might be one little thing and you might not have a ton of it, but you have some of it. So that's the first thing. So recognize where you are disciplined and focus on that strength. It's like, okay, well, why am I disciplined in that area? So really dissect it, get deep, have that deep conversation with yourself, and then ask other people too. Like, talk to other people. Hey, like, I don't look at myself as a very disciplined person, or I am a pretty disciplined person, but I know I can be better. And have other people that are close to you that know you tell you, well, I think you do this, right? And tell them it's a safe space, like make them comfortable with giving you this feedback. Because again, a lot of people aren't, right? So that's step number one, is recognize where you currently shine with discipline, right? And then figure out why. All right. And then start small in other areas, right? So a lot of people now, we talked about it a little bit, but people walk around dehydrated constantly. And it takes discipline to drink water when, right? All the time, when there are so many other things. I love coffee, right? Brian used to love pop. I used to love energy drinks. We all got multiple water receptacles. So it takes discipline because there are so many other things that you could drink that are better tasting, and that, you know, maybe it's beer and you get a little buzz off of it. You don't get that from water, right? So start small. If you know that you should be drinking 1.5 gallons of water and you're drinking no water or very little, I mean, I know people that have gone, they don't drink water. It's crazy. Like, I don't know how they do it. But okay, well, if you try to drink 1.5 gallons of water every day and you're not drinking any right now, you're probably not going to be able to do that, right? Or you wouldn't be in this place. So start small. We'll start drinking 1/4 gallon of water a day. And then in a month, add another quarter and make it a half, right? And just build on those. So take very small steps and build on those things. And then once you've established this habit of discipline and doing things that you don't necessarily want to do, you're going to be able to apply that across the board to so many other things in your life. And then whatever it is that you define success as, because that's different for everybody, right? Some people look at success as making $10 million a year. Some people look at success as being able to get up and go and do whatever they want any day of the week. And they live out of their truck, you know, or they have one of those like sweet camper vans and stuff like that. You know, so whatever it is, you're going to need to be disciplined in order to achieve whatever it is that you think is success in one way or another. So, you know, again, dig deep, figure out where you currently are disciplined at, and then take small steps to improve it across the board in other areas of your life. And don't take on too much at the same time. Pick one thing, get a little bit better at that. Once you've mastered that, pick the next thing, get a little bit better at that. And the other thing too is don't be too hard on yourself. Like, we all slack or slip when it comes to discipline. We all make mistakes. We all make errors. Focus on growth and getting better, and not perfection, because you're never going to be perfect. It's just never going to happen. And if you set your goal as being perfect, you are guaranteed to fail. And that's going to start a whole nother problem.
That's good advice. I mean, the small steps thing is huge, because too many people try to like do a complete overhaul of their life and they're like, this is too hard, and they just give up. So the small steps thing, just start with one thing. If you want to drink more water, drink more water. Once you get that down, then you can move on to the next thing, which is like, I'm doing this discipline reset right now. So I have like a list of things that I'm trying to achieve every day. And like, I think we've all done or seen 75 hard. And if you slip up on 75 hard, you're supposed to go back to day one and start over. Well, that's defeating. I mean, it's a challenge for a reason, but that's super defeating. And people are like, well, I'm not going to start over. That's going to suck. I don't want to do this again. With the discipline reset, at the end of the day, you're going to reflect on how you did. And you're going to journal and be like, okay, well, maybe I could have done this better, but I did this really well. So you're not starting completely over. You're focusing on progress, looking at what you could do better, and then fixing it hopefully for the next day.
Yeah. 100% great advice. And that's the same thing with all of these skills, right? Like, try to be a little bit more intentional, try to be a little bit more emotionally intelligent. And when you make a mistake, reflect on it, learn from it, take ownership of it, take action, get better.
Own it.
Own it.
Agreed.
100%.
100%. Brian.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that wraps up our interview, right?
Yeah, episode 2 is complete.
And the books.
So since I'm the interviewee in this episode, Randy, take us away. How do you connect with Ideal Impact Podcast? Or if maybe I'm interested in some mindset coaching on the ideal skills, how do I get in touch with us?
Oh, you can hit us up on so many avenues of social media that we just talked about, how you shouldn't be on so much.
Yeah, but we're being intentional. But if you're being intentional, you're trying to improve your life, then it's
right.
Then it's okay. It's okay.
No, yeah, it's okay in that aspect of it. So on Facebook, we're the ideal _ You're gonna have to say these guys.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to totally
I'm
fuck it
telling you,
up.
I'm
like,
not- I'm
that's
not
why I
editing.
smiled.
I'm not editing any of this shit out. This was good.
I don't remember all of
So on Instagram, we're at ideal underscore wait, shit.
Yeah,
now I
see?
messed it up. So we're at ideal underscore impact underscore podcast. On Facebook, we're just the Ideal Impact Podcast. On LinkedIn, we're the Ideal Impact Podcast. We now have a YouTube channel. So that's the Ideal Impact Podcast, which is on YouTube again. And then we also have a Twitter, which we don't do a great job of manning yet, but
Yeah, we're at
Small
impact
steps, boys.
underscore
Yeah.
ideal on that one. So it's
Yeah.
Small
backwards.
steps.
And soon we're going to have a website where you can connect with us directly as well. And then you can avoid the need to go on social media, and you can practice your discipline with your social media use by connecting with us directly on the website. So that's coming soon. But yeah, no, we're super, super happy. Thank you for everybody who's out there, who's listening, watching, giving us feedback, because we're always looking to improve and get better. And again, it's all about the progress and the growth. This is never going to be perfect, but we love hearing from everybody. And don't forget, we have a monthly call. So it's one Tuesday every month. We post the date as soon as we decide on a date, but it's a Tuesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. It is called the Ideal Connect Call. It gives you an opportunity to connect with us directly on a Zoom call. We get to be on camera and have great, deep conversations around these skills. And again, some issues that are going on with society, what you have going on in your life, and how we can hopefully help you. And I'm sure you can help us as well, because we get a lot out of those calls in both, giving and receiving information and knowledge. So thanks for everybody again for listening. Thanks for everything and thanks for the support, through this journey that we have going on.